Beletrina, v živo.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Beletrina Live. My name is Julija Potrč Šavli. I'm a translator from Finnish, Estonian and English. And today I have a very special guest with me here. It's Sofi Oksanen. She's one of the leading Finnish contemporary authors. And 3 of her books have already been published in Slovenian. And now the 4th one is just about to come out. It's Dog Park, Pasji Park, and I'm very, very excited to have this opportunity to be talking to her today. So hello, Sofi.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet you and the readers online.
Very good to see you. So we're going to be talking and focusing mainly on your novel Dog Park today. It's going to be published, like I said, in a couple of weeks, so we don't want to give too much of the content away. Yeah. We don't want to spoil too much for the readers. But anyway, my first question to you is, we in Slovenia are already familiar with your work, so we have 3 translations, Purge, Stalin's Cows, and When the Doves Disappeared, of course. And these 3 books that have been published previously are mainly set in Estonia or in Finland, so you deal with the historical perspective also. But this new book, Dog Park, is set mainly in Ukraine, also in Finland, but Ukraine is the main setting, and the town of Dnipropetrovsk or Dnipro. So my first question is, how did this shift happen? And I have to also stress that the book came out in 2019. So that's before this huge invasion of Russia on Ukraine in 22. So how come the setting is...
Yes, my the 3 novels out published by in Slovenian, they are loosely connected because they are related to Estonian recent past, and I call this series related to Estonian recent past as Estonia Quartet. And I'm actually working on the last part of this the quartet. But the Dog Park is different. Maybe not to those who know my work, that there are certain themes I like to address in my work. But I decided to write the novel after the Revolution of Dignity in 2014. Because I thought at the time that the revolution, starting of the war, the beginning of the war in Donbass, was covered so widely, globally, that this must be a turning point for Western publishers to start publishing Ukrainian authors and poets, and generally even, more books about Ukraine. I was certain of it. And well, even though some authors, Ukrainian authors, were published, there were some books about Ukraine, but in Finland, nothing actually changed. Mm. And I got really frustrated. I waited, and nothing happened. And then I thought, okay, I'm not a person who likes to be, just if you are frustrated about something, I want to do something about it. And as an author, I need to write. And so I thought that, okay, I was waiting for publishers to start publishing Ukrainian poetry, but I mean, why am I waiting? I could also write myself. And that is the reason why I wanted to write a novel focusing on Ukraine and Ukraine's recent past. The changes or the atmosphere that actually led to the revolution. And also, in some way, it is also trying to describe the atmosphere that led to the war as well, and the corruption, for instance. So that is the reason why I started to work on this book, and I also got the blessing from Ukrainian friends. I asked that, is it okay for me to write about Ukraine? And they said, yes, do. And and I ended up writing about the fertility industry in the country, which is something that I had paid attention to already before, because the Ukrainian law was quite specific. It's the most liberal law when it comes to fertility industry. And it really, for example, you can choose the gender of your child, which is not okay in almost everywhere in the country. And I thought, okay, this is actually interesting. Could this be like a gateway or a spectre through which I could actually depict the society and the corruption and the abuse of women as well, which is important topic to me. So that's how it started.
And those are the topics that actually repeat to some extent or other throughout your work. But that's this infertility was my next question. So the main character in the book, her name is Olenka. And she's actually a project coordinator in one of these clinics. And you really show how Western couples were taking advantage of this kind of loose legal framework and coming to Ukraine. And it's true that the industry, so surrogacy and IVF treatment, so egg cell donation was very, very, let's say, very developed in Ukraine. And a lot of Western couples were coming to get this kind of help. But to me, what's important is you also show this social dimension. So exactly that the women in Ukraine, some of them don't have much choice about work. You know, they're either waiting to marry someone kind of well off or someone who can support them. It's hard to get a job. And for a lot of them, there's not much choice, except some of them turn to this egg donation, thinking that, you know, it's their opportunity to earn money, to help their families, to kind of, just basically to get money. I think this is also an important social question. Was this in your mind also when you were writing?
Definitely, yes. Because, you know, the fertility industry was promoting the service to Western clients in a way that it didn't really match with the reality, and they obviously the Western couples who arrived to Ukraine to get the most affordable white baby you could have in the world. They were thinking, they were totally overwhelmed by their baby dreams. And they were thinking, I remember this Finnish customer, for example, who actually said to Finnish media that she's sure that the donor or the surrogate mother is very well taken care of, because she's a teacher. So for Finnish customer, the fact that the surrogate mother is a teacher was a kind of sign that she's not that poor, that it could be seen as exploitation. And now, if we know what the salaries of Ukrainian teachers are, and we know how much, you know, how difficult many everyday life things in Ukraine are. So in a way that it was just mind-blowing that this Western customer could be gaslighted in just by the mere fact that, okay, there's teacher, so that everything is okay. And the sum that the Western couples or the customers were paying was very small amount of money for a Western couple. So it was, you know, in many countries where they offer fertility services, the prices are high. So the customer needs to be well off, or at least middle class. But the prices in Ukraine are so low for the Western customer that a hairdresser can afford their services, for instance. And then from Ukrainian perspective, the sum was so big that it was actually, it could change your life. It could change your family's life. You could get proper treatment for your parents. You could, fix your roof, all sorts of things that actually, or offer better education for your children, for example. So in that way, that was those few thousand euros really made the difference to the women.
Mm-hmm. And you show that very
well.
But
again, it was, but again, in a way that the sum was ridiculously small for a Western Western clientele.
Mm-hmm. And you show that really well, how actually, exploitation, we could say, to this even egg cell donation, that often they're kind of forced to make that choice. It's not just for maybe the Western couples are thinking, oh, they want to help, and they have a lot of women, I'm sure, want to help and have this kind of ideal, but for a lot of them, it's basically just kind of survival, helping their families, maybe paying for healthcare services, something very vital that everyone kind of takes for granted, but for them it's these basic things are basically unattainable. So you write about that, and you also show very well the difference between in Ukraine how some people are living a well-off life, like this is the Kravits family in the story, how they deal with coal, so that's a whole different business. And their life is like light years away from someone like a woman who needs to think about paying her healthcare bills and maybe doing Excel. So this really shows also the extent of corruption, which you mentioned before, and its consequences. So what is life like if corruption dictates everything basically in a country? What is it like for their citizens?
Yes, and one thing is what bothers me in the fertility industry is that they don't actually care about the donors and surrogate mothers at all. I mean, we have, and this is actually a global problem. In a way, there is no proper research about the long-term consequences of these treatments to the donors and the surrogate mothers, and especially in Ukraine, which was not, unfortunately, a European Union member. That means that, for example, the medication that was given to the women, it was not controlled at all, actually. So there was a lot of, and when these women were left alone with the health problems, there was absolutely no one to take care of them or to help them, except for the NGOs who tried to do their best.
Okay, and now I just want to give you some of my personal feedback. Of course, I translated the book. I've read all your works, but of course, this book is just brilliant to me because it's such a great mixture, of amazing language, like were used from you, like kind of lyrical passages, almost long sentences. The language is amazing, but it's also so full of suspense. I mean, really, after each chapter, you just can't put it down. And I would never describe this book as, like a thriller. I suspect this wasn't what you set out to write, but it's also an amazing love story, a very moving love story. It's got the social issues, but this suspense element is definitely there. So I just want to say, you just read each chapter because it's divided also into several layers, but you just can't stop reading it. So I want to ask, how did you set up, this suspense? Is it something that you work on from the beginning, or does it happen kind of as you go along when you write?
Well, thank you for your kind words. I always want to have a love story included in the novel. That is something I always think is one of my priorities. But I also try to write stories that you don't want to put down. I mean, I don't want readers to fall asleep when they read the first page of the book. So suspense is a tool to keep the reader on board, but it's not something that I think that I need to write a page turner. I think if you think that too much, then maybe it turns out not to be the page turner. But I think that's a natural way of writing to me as well.
And
it's good that you mentioned this word suspense, because suspense is like cornerstone of every single drama. If there's no suspense and contradictions between the characters, then I'm afraid it is something else than a drama.
There's so much, of course, in the book, so I can only recommend everyone to read it also here when it comes out. But maybe for one last question, we can say about the title, Dog Park, because it's very important place in the book, maybe even a little bit symbolic. The phrase, I have to say, is quite new in Slovene, this Pasji park. At least I wasn't very familiar. The concept has been around, but I had to think about, okay, what would you say? Would you say a park for dogs or a dog park or something like this? So can you tell us a little bit more about why you chose this phrase as the title of the book?
Well, I always have animal symbols, and in this particular novel, it's the dog. For multiple reasons. I mean, dog is a great symbol for loyalty, but also it's a symbol for happiness in this case. And also the question about breeding, it has a connection to the fertility industry, because these Western couples are looking for designer babies, actually. Just like dog owners might be looking for, dogs that are more expensive than the others. But this concept of dog park is something I wanted to also symbolize the development in Ukraine, because Ukraine didn't have dog parks either. And then again, in Nordic countries, you have dog parks everywhere. So it's one of those everyday life features that actually they are telling something about the society itself. If you have a dog park, then the society is actually quite well developed. I mean, people, and in the novel, the protagonist Olenka is kind of astonished by the dog parks in Finland, that the Finnish people are so well off that they can actually, and not only monetary, but in a monetary way, but that they are so well off that they can actually afford dog parks. But when I say that, not only in a monetary way, that they have time to spend time to take their dogs to the dog park. That is already part of the broader picture of what everyday life is. Because if you are not well off in Ukraine, you have to take care of your parents, your children, your everyday life. Then actually, I really don't think that the women have time, even though they have the dog parks, and they have time to go play with the dogs in a dog park. So this is something that becomes for the protagonist a symbol of of a happiness, but also a symbol for the life where you have time to take your dog to the dog park just to play with it.
And also the protagonist is watching in this dog park. We're not going to reveal everything, but she's watching kind of a family and thinking about what her life could have been. So it's a very important place, of course, and it also some big drama also takes place in this dog park. So I guess it's also a good novel name through that perspective. But our time is almost up. I don't know if I would like to invite you if you have any closing words, anything else you would like to say now that this novel is coming out in Slovenia.
Well, I hope that the readers enjoy it. And I hope that it will keep them glued to the pages of the novel. After Dog Park, I wrote an essay book called Same River Twice, Putin's War Against Women. This is the Finnish edition. It's about how Russia is using misogyny in domestic politics in Ukraine and as a tool for its imperialistic goals. It's a literary essay, so in that way, it was something I kind of needed to do in the midst of what's happening in Ukraine, and I have a feeling that women's voices and experiences are kind of disappearing from the tank talk and the war talk. So that is the reason I wanted to write this particular book.
Very important, and I thank you for your important work that you're doing, and we're looking forward to getting more of your works translated, and I can assure everyone that this at least Dog Park surely will keep everyone glued and reading through the book. So thank you so much for being with us, Sofi. It was a great pleasure having you, and hope to see you again, and hope to have more of your books published here.
Thank you, and thanks for translating, and bye to everybody over there.
Beletrina, v živo.